Modern gaming is very different to how it was 10 years ago. There were so many genres to choose from. While these days we're pretty much forced to pick between different types of Souls-like games, which has become more of a spectrum than a definitive description. Flintlock is described as an action RPG with Souls-light combat, which sits between God of War and Elden Ring. It was released in July 2024, developed by A44 Games, who also made Ashen, and published by Kepler Interactive. It released on PS5, PC, and Xbox Series, and received very similar ratings across all platforms. It was described as a tasty hybrid, not without flaws, but also a barbaric, misconceived idea. It didn't blow many people away, but it did stick in my head for reasons other than the things the reviews touched on. I started playing a game a few months ago that I was really enjoying. I'm not into Souls-likes, but this hooked me, mainly for its simplicity and approachable nature. That game is Stray Blade. Released in April 2023, this is yet another action RPG with Souls-like combat. Developed by Point Blank Games and published by 505 Games, it released on PS5, PC, and Xbox Series. The reviews for PS5 and PC were again very close to one another, and were pretty average. It was described as having a lot of content in its fantasy journey, but the technical issues were its biggest flaw. So why am I talking about two games that came out almost a year apart? Well, technically I'm talking about 3 games, but we'll get to that later. Flintlock puts us in the shoes of Nor, who is part of a coalition fighting against the old gods and trying to save mankind from extinction. After a fight, Nor is knocked off a cliff and rescued by a small fox-like creature with magic powers. This is Enki, a lesser god, and he accompanies us throughout the game, helping unlock our own inner powers and aiding us in combat with his own unique abilities. In Stray Blade, we play as Farron West, an adventurer who dies while trying to find the lost valley of Akreya. We can pick between a male and a female character, and we get resurrected by a small fox-like creature with magic powers. Wait, did I mess that up? Nope. That wasn't just me. This guy is Boji. Boji? Enki? Boji accompanies us throughout the game, helps unlock our inner powers and aids us in combat with... I feel like we've been here before. Maybe the driving force behind us is different? Let's see. We have to defeat godlike beings in order to free ourselves from the magic hold that was put on us. So, Flintlock is a game that is trying hard not to be described as a Souls-like game, but more of a gateway into the world of Souls-likes. We're thrown into the game with a couple of weapons, a firearm and an axe, and shown the basics of combat within the world, including a multiplier that we can choose when to cash in on, but we can lose it when we take damage. Dodge, parries, pretty standard stuff and nothing too confusing to learn. In Stray Blade, we don't get any firearms, but the arsenal of melee weapons is impressive. We craft all our weapons and gear by finding blueprints and materials along our journey, and we can master each one to gain small buffs or stat increases. Again, dodge, parries, and standard combat stuff. Flintlock isn't as generous with gear as Strayblade is. And in the beginning, we only get the option of buying different coloured clothes with no stat increases, and weapon drops are meagre. Though you can upgrade weapons by collecting materials. Strayblade allows you to craft any piece of gear as long as you know the plans and have the materials.
Let's go! Wait for it. Out! Out, 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 out! Harder! Carefully! With feeling. Okay, quench it!
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Then you can find dyes in the world and you can change the colours as much as you want, while enjoying stat increases and a fun change to your appearance. This isn't to say Flintlock is worse than Strayblade, or vice versa. I just wanted to point out the weird similarities between them. Considering Strayblade came out a year before and is hardly known, and Flintlock had a big fanfare made about it, it's interesting to compare the content of both. So we've covered the fact that the storyline of Flintlock and Strayblade are super similar. The combat mechanics are pretty standard for a Souls-like game, and gear crafting is identical in places. What else is there to look at? The first thing I thought when I started Flintlock was, have I seen this before? It has a certain art style and atmosphere that I felt when I played Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. The environments and landscapes, the old world buildings. Even the people have a certain vibe about them. You could easily swap some characters from both the games and no one would notice. Well, until you head into a coffee shop. Then Flintlock turns into a Studio Ghibli movie.
The dead came over us like a wave. If it hadn't been for you...
Best not celebrate just yet. This whole mess is far from over.
I don't know if it's just the style of Souls-like games, or if it's the modern style many studios are going with. Even Immortals of Aveum was along the same kind of lines design-wise, but it lacked the kind of grimy, muddy, rustic undertones Flintlock and Banishers have. Taking it a step further into Banishers territory, I nearly laughed out loud when I saw this mechanic. You can magically jump through the air, following energy traces. This seems familiar.
Come with me.
This only made me laugh because just before this was introduced, I was thinking how much Flintlock felt like Banishers. Then boom, a mechanic Banishers used. I noticed a few more similarities between these games. The first monster reveal. Flintlock has Guardian of the Door. And Strayblade has Gatekeeper.
The last, before you finally stand before your first trial. The General, the Gatekeeper.
The enemy types, and the final blow effects.
For good.
The main character being thrown off a cliff dramatically in the beginning.
present here. If you laid a finger on her...
Lord, come to her aid.
The icy ocean made a diamond from his grief, then buried it in his heart.
Still frame or cartoon style storytelling.
To cut the dead off forever. Alan and I volunteered. We probably won't make it back, but I would rather take my chances than leave you in this broken world.
I thought that this would be my biggest adventure, but how big it would be, I could have never known.
Since the dawn of humanity, the dead have lingered. Dead as alive, we are complex and emotional beings. Many and tangled are the ties that bind. Since the beginning of memory, Banishers have fought to sever those ties.
Having a magical sidekick who aids us in combat or pops up to provide guidance and points stuff out to the player.
What in the pit was that?
They mentioned Ramuha, another god. She must have also escaped Dawn when the barrier fell.
There it is, the spire. Inside our helper rests the sage, my master. If in deep sleep or dead, I do not know.
I think I see a crossing over there.
Signs of civilization. Lucky me.
This isn't over yet.
Similar inventories and skill trees. It's not a bad thing that Flintlock takes inspiration from other games, or that it's identical to other games in its genre. I think the biggest thing that lets it down is that it doesn't do anything new. Okay, the damage multiplier and manually cashing it in is something I haven't seen before, but what else did it bring to the table that no other game did? I appreciated the fantasy setting and having it incorporated with familiar aspects of our own world, but even that can lose its novelty after a while. Flintlock isn't a bad game at all, but the reviews were right in saying it was average. If you like soulslike or light games, then this is another title to add to the list you might enjoy. If you're not a fan, like me, then it's a great way to try out the genre without brain-melting difficulty of a full-on Souls game. If you played and enjoyed Stray Blade and Banishers, then Flintlock combines a lot of the two games into one, and you can get a little more of what you like without branching too far away from what you already know. There's nothing bad about playing it safe and sticking to tried and true formats. But when things become too cookie-cutter, it can be detrimental to how a game's received. Flintlock plays it safe with much of what it brings to the table, only adding a few mechanics in, hoping they set it apart from the rest. I can't believe how closely it resembles Stray Blade, down to the magical fox companion.
Hey, you said your name was Boji? Care to tell me who built these giant temples? They are truly astounding. Though I wonder how big their egos must have been.
Oh, massive. Believe me. Especially that of the one who ruled this place.
Flintlock did throw in a minigame called Sibo, a simple game with coins. I was really enjoying it, and was actually quite good. Until I wasn't. Oh well. I can always go back to Gwent, I guess.
You'll get it next time.
This was fun. Let's do it again sometime. And if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like down below.